Hi, my name is Robert, and this is my older sister, Alice. We used to get along really well, probably because we minded our business and chatted only at breakfast, dinner, and family holidays. Now, I hate her, especially after the recent incident when I came back home too early and saw something my eyes definitely shouldn't have seen. Do you want to know what happened between me and my sister and why I dream of leaving home after school? Then watch this video till the end. By the way, you'll find even more fascinating videos on our channel. We have the most gripping stories and folks who will surely tell you something cool. Stay tuned and click the bell if you want to keep up with our new videos. And I will start with my family. I have a mom, dad, and an older sister, Alice. She's 5 years older than me. My mother told me when Alice found out she was going to have a younger brother, she was really looking forward to it. She probably thought she would play with me like with her peers, or she would feed me and take care of me instead of her dolls. But when I was born, my sister realized she was wrong. She said I was a small, wrinkled, screaming lump when she first saw me in my mother's arms when she was back from the hospital. So Alice was disappointed in me the first day. She wasn't a caring older sister who walked with me, played with me, or cuddled me. Alice sometimes helped my mother when she asked her to do it, but she didn't help or bring me up. That was the secret of our excellent relationship, I think. I often heard from the kids at school that their older sibling was a true devil because they couldn't get along and constantly fought with each other. Me and Alice lived peacefully. Our parents loved us equally. When me and Dad watched baseball, Alice and Mom cooked something in the kitchen. When Dad taught Alice how to ride a bike, Mom played badminton with me in the backyard. An ordinary family, so to say. As we got older, each of us found new hobbies and friends. Alice separated herself from me. At first, when Alice hung out with friends, my mother asked her to take me with her. But Alice realized at once neither I nor she liked that idea. Alice had girlfriends who sometimes called on us. They locked themselves in my sister's room, turned on music, and giggled all evening long. They talked about guys and gossiped about other girls. I tried to stay away from my sister's room because her friends constantly laughed at me. They jokingly tried to seduce me. They hit on me, passed by me in pajamas that didn't look like clothes at all. It wasn't easy for me, so I usually either stayed in my room or hung out with my friends. My sister's room was forbidden to me. Alice wouldn't let me in. She locked it with a key when she left. I don't know what secrets she hid in there, but it would have been better for her to keep hiding. I didn't want to know them all. One day I came home early from school. We had several classes canceled, so before my swimming training, I decided to go home and sleep for a couple of hours. There was only Mom at home. She was cooking dinner. I went up to my room. Me and Alice lived on the second floor. I sprawled on the bed and fell asleep. And I awoke from the explosion. I couldn't believe it, but I jumped out of bed with horror and ran downstairs. I bumped into Mom. She also heard a strange sound, but didn't know where it had come from. At first, me and Mom checked all the rooms on the first floor, but we didn't find anything. There was only Alice's room left to check. I was sure the explosion had been there. Mom had keys to all the doors in the house, so we easily opened Alice's room, and what we saw in there made us freeze. At first, we didn't understand what exactly had exploded there, but the walls, ceiling, and floor were covered with something black, as if a can of black paint burst in the very middle of the room. And it turned out so. When Mom came in, she saw a bag with spray paint cans under Alice's desk. Alice was an excellent painter, and sometimes she painted the school walls or buildings when she was allowed. Something definitely happened to one of the cans, so it exploded and sprayed paint all over the room. I was even afraid to imagine what would happen to Alice when she saw this. All her stuff was damaged. The bed, plush toys, books, posters with celebrities, clothes that hung on chairs, and the room looked terrible. Maybe the paint could be washed off, but the wallpaper and ceiling wouldn't. When Alice came home, she couldn't understand why we all looked upset. and only when Alice went up to her room, we heard her screams, and then her loud crying. I felt uneasy at that moment. I imagined that all my things and the room were covered with paint. Ugh, it's awful. But no matter how much I sympathized with my sister, the last thing I expected was that this would affect me in any way. Unfortunately, it did. Since my sister's room needed to be renovated, she moved to another room for a while, but we didn't have any spare rooms. My parents didn't find a better solution but to let Alice stay with me. Can you imagine? My 20-year-old sister will now live with me? I secretly hoped Alice would refuse. I thought she would live with one of her friends or with her boyfriend, but she sighed and agreed. She said she didn't want to burden anyone. She thought I definitely wouldn't mind her staying in my room for a while because I was her brother, but I was against it. It's so sad no one cared about my opinion. When Alice moved into my room, Mom and Dad said I should sleep on a horrible tiny sofa, which I used only for playing my PlayStation. My things were piled on the shelf. Alice stuffed the closet with tons of her clothes. Moreover, she put her cosmetics and care products in my bathroom. As many girls have, there were so many jars and bottles that they occupied all the surfaces. And if I thought taking over my territory was the worst thing that could happen to me, then I was wrong. The worst was that my sister was such a slob. I hated when she left something out of place or on the floor. After a couple of days, I could barely find anything in my room. Alice's clothes, her textbooks, notebooks, and socks were scattered around. Even her underwear. I'm not kidding. One day, I came home and saw Alice's bra in my gym bag. Believe me, it was really horrible. The worst was that the second part of her underwear suit, the below one, so to say, had fallen inside the bag. And I noticed it only when I took out my things in the locker room. Just imagine, a men's locker room before swimming training. I take my things out of a sports bag, and then women's panties fly up in the air. I think guys will laugh at me for the rest of my life. What I also didn't expect was Alice invited her friends while living in my room. The ones who usually laughed at me. She really did it. That evening, I came home exhausted because of classes and training. I dreamed only of taking a shower and going to bed as soon as possible. But my dreams didn't come true because I found a crowd of girls who were laughing in my room. As always, the girls started hugging me, giggling, and blinking at me. Earlier, I could escape to my room, but now I had nowhere to go. I had to go downstairs and sleep in the living room. The sofa there was even less comfortable. It was awful, and I was counting the days until Alice moved back. The renovation went slowly. Almost every morning, I begged my parents to speed it up. After Alice's friends left, I hoped it wouldn't get any worse, but I was wrong again. I shouldn't have skipped the training that day. I thought Alice would be at college or work, and I would sleep at least a couple of hours. Alas, I went up to my room half asleep, opened the door, and saw something that I still want to erase from my memory. On my bed, in my room, my sister was doing it with her boyfriend. It seems to me that I simultaneously turned pale, red, gray, and almost fainted. And I was outraged. Couldn't she wait until she moved back to her room to do this? After that, I made a deal with my parents. If they didn't renovate Alice's room within a week, I would move to my aunt and uncle's. My cousin went to another city to study, and they had a spare room. I didn't mention why I wanted that. I think my parents wouldn't be delighted. Luckily, the renovation went faster. Alice will move back in a few days. I'm counting the hours when I will have space for myself, and I have already decided I will definitely move out after school. I will work and rent an apartment because I won't stand living in a hostel. By the way, Alice didn't even apologize for that incident and didn't thank me for not telling my parents anything. Do you think maybe it's worth taking revenge on her? Anyway, share your views down below. I hope you enjoyed my story. Please like the video and wait for all the next ones. See ya! See ya.
Ashley, would you turn that off and stop screaming at the top of your lungs? Your dad just got back from work and he's taking a nap.
Sorry, Mom, I said as I turned down the radio.
One of these days I'm gonna break that radio into pieces.
I heard Dad say as his heavy footsteps went past my bedroom. Dad hated it when I sang. I didn't understand why when everyone else said I had a beautiful voice. Some even called it angelic. I won countless singing competitions at school, but whenever I came home with a trophy, he threw it in the trash, saying I was wasting my time. My family was not rich. Dad was a construction worker, while Mom stayed at home taking care of everyone.
You need to focus on your grades. Forget about all this singing.
He'd always say, Dad might as well have told me to stop breathing. Singing was my life, and my dream was to become a famous music star. Do you want your dream to come true? Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Then hit that notification bell and see what happens.
Hey, what are you always writing in there?
Surely, a girl in my class stood over my desk. It's none of your business, I said and quickly closed my notebook.
But I want to see.
She said as she took the notebook from me. Stop it! I tried to snatch it back, but it was too late. She was already reading it out loud to the whole class.
I was born with golden lips.
She read in a high-pitched voice.
Oh my God, is this a love poem? Aw, our sweet Ashley is in love.
The whole class laughed.
Actually, it's a song. I heard her sing it. It's really nice.
My best friend Lucas said, and my face instantly turned into a tomato. I had a huge crush on him, and I'd die if he found out. I had no idea you were listening, I said shyly.
I was, and it was so cool. Come on, sing it for the whole class.
He dared me. What? No way.
I bet she's not even that good.
Shirley rolled her eyes. Actually, I am, I said confidently. I stood up and took a deep breath. The whole class now quiet, all their attention focused on me. When I started to sing, the class went silent. I was so lost in the moment, I didn't notice that Lucas was recording the whole thing. When I was done singing, the whole class erupted in cheers.
That was amazing. Don't forget me when you become famous.
If only my dad felt the same. I sat back in my seat feeling sad and defeated.
Ashley, you won't believe who commented on your video.
Lucas ran into class excited. He was referring to the video of me singing in class a few days earlier. He uploaded it to his Instagram page and the video went viral. Who is it?
It's Maria Lopez. Isn't she your idol?
What? Let me see. Maria was a famous pop star. She had millions of fans over the world, me included. I couldn't believe my eyes when I read her comment. She's asking me to reach out to her.
Are you going to?
Are you kidding? Of course. In fact, I'll do it right now. I answered while typing a reply to Maria's comment on the video. Later that day, Maria replied with an invite to her studio. I was on cloud 9.
Your hands are shaking.
Lucas said as we sat waiting for Maria. I'm so nervous. I can't believe I'm about to meet my idol.
Hey, Ashley, right?
Maria waved as she walked into the room. A guy with a camera followed right behind her. I was starstruck and I struggled to get any words out. I still can't believe this is happening. She smiled kindly and shook her hands.
You better believe it because we've got work to do. How do you feel about singing in a professional studio?
Right now?
Yes, right now. Unless you're not ready.
She's ready, right, Ashley?
Lucas held out his hand for me and I took it.
Oh, you guys are so cute together.
We walked inside the studio where a few people were busy setting up.
So, do you have a song in mind?
How about I sing one of yours? She looked unsure.
I don't know. My songs are pretty hard to sing for a beginner.
Ashley can sing anything.
I had no idea Lucas was such a fan of my singing. Thanks, Lucas.
Okay, if you're sure, just pick a song from my new album and let's hear it.
As I began singing, I could see the doubt on Maria's face, but about a minute into the song, her eyes widened. When I was done singing, the people inside the studio stood up and clapped.
That was incredible! I'm so glad you came today. I'm going to make you a star.
What do you mean?
I want you to join my record label. I have to talk to a few people, but I'm sure they'll love you just as much as I do. What do you say?
Yes. Oh, I mean, it's totally up to Ashley.
Lucas made everyone laugh. I couldn't believe that my dream was coming true, and much earlier than I expected. I should have been jumping up and down with joy, but the thought of breaking the news to my parents terrified me. Dad had made it clear that pursuing a music career was out of the question.
Ashley? I expected much more excitement.
Maria, this has been my dream ever since I was a little girl.
Then why don't you look happy?
My parents, Dad especially, they'll never agree to it.
I can try and talk to them for you.
I knew it was a long shot, but I didn't have much choice, so I agreed to bring my parents to meet Maria the next day. When Lucas and I got to my house, Mom was preparing dinner. Mom, is Dad home yet? I need to talk to both of you.
Is everything all right, dear?
Yeah, everything's great actually. I couldn't hide my huge smile. A few minutes later, Mom and Dad sat on our living room couch waiting for me to speak. I crossed my fingers and told them about my eventful afternoon meeting with Maria. I was so nervous, my palms were so sweaty. She offered me a record deal. She's gonna make me famous.
Absolutely not. I can't believe you went behind our backs and met with that evil woman.
Maria's not evil, Dad. I'm very lucky that she wants to help me. Please, just meet her and hear what she has to say about my future. As soon as I said that, I knew I made a huge mistake.
Your future? What does she know about your future? Is she your mother now? Are we not doing enough for you that you have to go and trust a stranger with your future? But she's really good, Mr. Stencil. Watch this video and see for yourself. I'm not watching any videos.
Dad snatched Lucas's phone and threw it across the room. Lucas, I'm so sorry. You can have my phone, I said in between sobs. I was so angry at Dad's outburst, but I was angrier at my mom's silence during the whole thing. How could she let Dad get out of control like that? I resented them both. You know I'm turning 18 in a week. You can't stop me from signing the deal, I said defiantly.
What did you just say?
Dad looked like an enraged bull. I said I'll be 18 soon. You can't control me anymore.
Get out, now! You think you're all grown up and you don't need us anymore? Leave now!
But where is she going to go?
Mom looked horrified.
I don't care. She clearly thinks she's better than us, so let her go live her fancy life.
And that, my friends, is how I found myself back at Maria's studio with nothing but a bag full of clothes and my notebook. Maria was shocked to see me there, but she promised to do everything she could to make me a star. She also welcomed me to live with her. On my 18th birthday and a day after graduation, I signed a multi-million record deal with Maria's Butterfly Records.
Ashley's first single will be out in a few weeks, so be on the lookout, guys.
She announced to her fans a few hours after we signed the deal. I had no idea how much work went into recording one single song. I was at the studio for hours every day, sometimes going late into the night. I was not allowed to reveal the name of the song until it was released. One morning, Maria and I were having breakfast when something on the radio caught my attention.
Coming up next is Ashley Stencil with her debut single, I Was Born with Golden Lips.
Hey, that's my song! I exclaimed. I couldn't explain the feeling of hearing myself on the radio. I was so happy, but at the same time, so nervous. What if they hated my voice? I'd seen celebrities quickly rise to fame only for them to come crashing down. Turns out I had nothing to worry about. I Was Born with Golden Lips received so much praise. It became an instant fan favorite. Radio stations played the song every day for weeks. It felt like a dream. I was invited to countless interviews and radio shows. They called me the girl with the golden lips. A few weeks after my song came out, I had more money than I knew what to do with. Maria introduced me to all the right people. She helped me hire a manager, a hair and makeup artist, a stylist, and a few other people who did almost everything for me. I also moved out of Maria's house into my own, thanks to my now very fat bank account. Life was great. I was still getting used to the fact that I had fans now. People recognized me when I walked outside. They asked to take selfies with me. They even asked me to sign some autographs. Can you believe that?
You're here!
Lucas shouted when I walked into my former high school's auditorium. In a few hours, it was going to be the venue of my very first live show. Being back there was emotional for me. Months had gone by and I still hadn't spoken to my parents. Hey, I have to go get ready for the show. You'll be here, right?
I wouldn't miss it. I can't wait to see you on stage.
He gave me a quick kiss and left. Oh, did I forget to tell you? Lucas was my boyfriend now, much to my fans' delight. They even nicknamed us Cashly.
Aw, you guys are so cute. Hashtag couple goals.
Maria teased me. She was on the stage doing a sound test. Don't start. So is everything set up for tonight?
Yes, you'll be first on stage, then I'll join you after you sing your first song. Are you nervous?
Yes, but I'm ready. I just wish my mom was here tonight. Maria looked like she wanted to say something but stopped herself at the last minute. Was Maria keeping a secret? Keep watching to find out. Hours later, the school auditorium was full of eager fans. I was backstage with Lucas, who was just as nervous as I was.
You'll do great. Now go.
I let go of his hands and walked on stage. The crowd went wild, and I had to wait a few minutes before I could start singing. When I started singing, all of my nerves fled. I was so caught up in the moment, I didn't notice that someone else had walked onto the stage and was singing with me. It's only when the song ended that I opened my eyes and I saw the person standing next to me. Mom? What are you doing here? The crowd went wild.
I thought you could use a backup singer.
Oh, Mom, it's so good to see you. Guys, this beautiful woman on stage with me is my mom. Wasn't she great? I embraced Mom, and the roar of the crowd was deafening. It was Maria's time to come up on stage, so Mom and I went backstage. A very excited Lucas was waiting for us. Mom, how did you get on the stage?
When Lucas told me about your show, we came up with the idea of surprising you.
I spoke to Maria about it, and she made it happen.
So that's what she was hiding. We stayed for Maria's performance, then I invited my mom to my house after the show ended. When we arrived at my house, Mom couldn't hide her surprise.
Wow, this is where you live? It's so big.
I'm making a lot of money now, Mom. I smiled uncomfortably. After a few minutes of awkward silence as my mom looked around my home, we finally sat down to talk. So, how's Dad?
Your dad and I are getting a divorce.
Lucas excused himself and left the room. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry.
Don't be. I should have left him a long time ago. I wanted to be a singer just like you know. I had so many songs written down.
I didn't know that.
When you were a little girl, you found my notebook stored in my closet. In the notebook were the words to I Was Born with Golden Lips. You copied that song to your notebook and started to memorize it. It was the first song I ever wrote.
What? Why didn't you ever record it?
Your dad didn't like it when I sang, so I stopped. After you were born, I told him I was thinking of starting a music career, and he got so angry. He threatened to leave us.
It's not too late, Mom. Do you still have your notes?
Yes, I do. Why?
Because I want us to do a song together. You saw how much the crowd loved your voice. Mom's face lit up.
Oh, Ashley, you have no idea how long I've been dreaming of this.
During the weeks that followed, Mom moved in with me and we started recording our song. I can't wait for you guys to hear what Mom and I came up with. Hit that notification bell. You don't want to miss it.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I come from a poor family. I had only one friend at school. Her name was Mary, and she was a nerd. The other girls didn't even notice me. But at one party, I suddenly became the center of attention. The most beautiful girl in school laughed at all my jokes all evening, and then dragged me by hand into a room. Of course, I immediately realized what was going on. In the dark, I hugged Monica and leaned down to kiss her. However, the light was suddenly turned on, and I saw that I had been about to kiss a mannequin that girls usually hang dresses on. Monica had set it all up on purpose. She and the other students had been filming me on their phones and laughing. Someone from the crowd shouted, "Our loser finally has a girlfriend!" That had everyone splitting on their sides, and I hurried home. I hoped that the next day everyone would forget about my humiliation, but the bullying continued. I complained to Mary. "I'm so sick and tired of it. Today, I will ask my parents to transfer me to another school." Mary was very upset and tried to convince me to stay, but I still talked to my parents in the evening. They promised to find a good school for me. The next day, I came to school with a poker face. I knew I only had to put up with those jerks just a bit longer, and it would all be over. I was expecting to get mocked again, but something weird happened instead. I got surrounded by high school girls. Monica and her two friends, Stacy and Jess. They talked over each other and suggested we meet after school. Of course, I immediately guessed that it was another prank, so I pushed them aside and left. But getting rid of them turned out to be quite difficult. Before gym class, I opened my locker and took out a swimsuit top. Monica immediately ran up to me and said loudly so that everyone could hear, "Ah, there it is, Chris, thank you. I've been looking for it everywhere." Then she kissed me on the cheek and left me blushing and my classmates staring at me curiously. But the strange things did not end there. Before an important test, Stacy came up to me, put some paper in my hand and whispered in my ear, "Thank me on a date." While I was writing the test, it dawned on me that she had given me the answers to it. I couldn't do it myself, so I took a chance and copied everything from Stacy's paper. Even if it was some stupid trick, it wouldn't cost me anything. You might be surprised, but after classes, I found out I had been given an excellent mark. The high school student hadn't tricked me and for some reason had given me the correct answers. Jess decided to keep up with her friends as well. She caught up to me on the way home and handed me tickets with a smile. Those were invitations to a concert of my favorite stand-up comedian. "Take them if you want. I got them for free." Jess looked at me like she was expecting me to ask her to come with me, but I thanked her and called Mary. In the evening, we came to the concert together. I hadn't laughed that hard in a long while. On the way home, Mary and I discussed the most successful jokes and kept laughing. It was only near her house that I decided to change the topic and told her about that day's strange events. "Do you think they have some kind of plan to make me look like a loser again?" "No, Chris, you're cool, funny, interesting, and cute. Any girl would be happy to date you." After that, Mary blushed, said goodbye, and quickly walked into the house. Her words made me look at the behavior of those high school girls differently. What if all three of them really had crushes on me? After all, they say girls like shy guys. Such thoughts lifted my spirits. At home, I asked my parents to not look for a new school for me yet. Perhaps everything wasn't so bad after all. But my parents had good news for me too. "Can you imagine? Your dad bought a lottery ticket and he won! Now we have enough money to buy a car!" I couldn't believe that my family had gotten so lucky. My parents showed me an envelope with a bunch of dollars. I'd never seen so much money before, and I decided that my parents wouldn't even notice if I took a little for myself. When they fell asleep, I crept to the stash and took out a thin stack of bills. I decided to use that money to arrange a cool date and finally win over Monica, the most beautiful girl among the three friends. The next day, I bought some cool clothes after school, and in the evening, I took Monica to an expensive restaurant and gave her 101 roses. She was so beautiful, and the other guys couldn't take their eyes off of her. However, it turned out that was the only good thing about her. Monica chattered endlessly about clothes, TV shows, stars, and other stuff. I got tired after 10 minutes. An evening that was supposed to be one of the best ones of my life turned into real torture. I breathed a sigh of relief after walking Monica home, and in the evening, I decided to invite Stacy on a date. Also, with the money my parents had won. That night, I took some more bills out of the envelope and bought Stacy a gift after school the next day. A huge Hello Kitty toy. The girl was crazy about that cat. So she was over the moon. She got even happier after she found out where our date would take place. To surprise Stacy, I bought a hot air balloon flight with her. We looked at the tiny houses from above, drank cocktails, and chatted. She turned out to be a smart girl. She talked about books, the laws of physics, and theater. But it was all terribly boring. Next to her, I felt like a complete idiot. So I pretended that my height made me dizzy and asked the guy controlling the balloon to take us back down. Yeah, the second date wasn't as cool as I'd imagined either. The third one was my last hope. At night, I took some money from the envelope again, and the next day, I gave Jess an expensive ticket to a Billie Eilish concert. The seat was right next to the stage, and there was a backstage pass included. Jess and I had spent the whole day hanging out at Disneyland. Spending time with her was really cool, if not for two things. She wasn't as beautiful as her friends, and she dressed awfully. Passers-by even turned to look at us and trolled fingers at their temples. I came back home with mixed feelings. On one hand, I didn't like any of the girls 100%, but on the other, I was happy. After all, I was the only guy in school who had 3 high school girls chasing after him at once. My classmates were terribly jealous of me. To keep it that way, the next day, I kept flirting with the girls, but I was careful to talk to them one at a time so that they wouldn't find out about each other. Mary didn't like it. After school, she snapped her fingers in front of my eyes. "Hey, wake up! Those dolls just use you for money." "No, they don't. They've talked to me before Dad won the lottery. Besides, you said yourself that anyone would be happy to date me. Or were you lying?" "No, I wasn't. But you'll still regret dating them." Mary left angry. At home, I was in for another flight. As soon as I walked in, Mom glared at me and showed me a noticeably thinner envelope. I wanted the girls to like me so much that I'd completely lost control and spent too much money. "I'm sorry, I was just going on dates, to a restaurant, on a hot air balloon, and then..." "That's enough, Christopher. You had no right to take out our money without asking." Mom scolded me for a long time and then announced the punishment. "Starting next week, you'll be studying at a boys' school. There, you will definitely not be distracted by girls. I tried to convince my parents to change their mind. After all, I had only just become popular, but it was useless to argue. The next day, I came to school upset. The girls tried to cheer me up, but they did not bring me joy. There would be no more dates after school. I didn't even know where to invite them without money, so I decided to go home. But I heard their voices on the stairs and got curious. I squatted down and looked out behind the railing. Monica, Stacy, and Jess were arguing animatedly. Leave him alone, he asked me out first. But he knows what I like. That's why I got a Hello Kitty while he gave you some impersonal gifts. Stop arguing. Let go to this old woman right now and find out everything. The other girls agreed with Jess's ideas and went somewhere. Of course, it was nice that high school girls were fighting over me, but their talk seemed suspicious to me. Who was that old woman and what did she have to do with me? To find out, I decided to follow the girls. They walked into a house I didn't recognize. One of the windows was open and I cautiously looked inside. A woman was sitting at a table by candlelight, waving her arms over a glowing ball. Monica, Stacy, and Jess watched her every move. In the end, Monica couldn't stand it any longer. Come on, tell us, who will he choose? The old woman coughed and said, The ball got it wrong last time. Your boy won't become rich. He'll keep wearing ragged clothes and envying others. The girls got very upset. After they left, I knocked on that woman's door to get to the bottom of it. But she didn't open and said sternly behind the door, I'm not accepting any more clients today. Go away. The whole thing really bothered me. The next morning, I decided to ask the girls for details. But after they heard the prophecy, their attitude towards me suddenly changed dramatically. Monica wrinkled her nose in disgust when I approached her. Stacy sent me away loudly and just pretended like I didn't exist at all. Mary had been right. None of those girls liked me. They had just wanted the money. I had to apologize to my friend for not believing her and decided to surprise her. During a break, I drove to a store, bought a bunch of sweets with the last money I had, and put them in her locker. Who would have thought that I would see something interesting in there? On the top shelf was a set of candles and the glowing ball the old woman had been using. Before I could recover from the surprise, Mary appeared next to me. I demanded an explanation, but she reacted surprisingly, emotionally, snatched the ball out of my hands and shouted, You're a blind fool if you haven't understood anything yet. You're not just a friend to me, okay? At the party, I felt sorry for you and decided to raise your self-esteem. I told those idiots I knew a cool fortune teller who gave good relationship advice. They bought it. I asked my grandmother to play along. I bought her a glowing ball, candles, dressed her like a real psychic, and called your girlfriends. Grandma lied and said that you were going to become rich soon, so they started fighting over you. But things went too far. After your dad got rich for real, you squandered half of the winnings on dates and gifts. I felt sorry for you again. That's why I told each of the girls you were dating, 3 of them at once. So they came for a new prophecy. Mary didn't even let me say anything. She just started crying and ran away. To be honest, I was very angry with my friend. Because of her, I'd thought I was cool, while in fact, I was still a complete loser. If she had minded her own business, I wouldn't have spent my parents' money, or have had to go to a boys' school. But by the evening, I had cooled down and realized she had done it all for me. Mary was the only girl who liked me not for my money, but just the way I was. I told my mom the whole story and asked for some money to cheer up my friend. A couple hours later, I was standing in front of Mary's door. When she saw me, she wanted to slam the door shut, but I took out a glowing ball from behind my back. I rolled my eyes and waved my arms in front of it. Mary Brown, today you will go on a date with a blind fool. But he promises to do better. Mary couldn't stop laughing. We had a great time that night, and we didn't have to spend a lot of money. We just walked around the park, ate ice cream, and told each other funny stories. When the weekend kept to an end, my parents kept their promise and transferred me to a boys' school. But that didn't stop me from dating Mary. I didn't see Monica, Jess, and Stacy again, but Mary said that they had found a new victim and were chasing after a new rich guy. Well, I can only feel sorry for him. Send this video to a friend who is worried about having little money. Perhaps it will give him a new perspective.
A secret room? I would never have imagined. What else could my parents be hiding from me? I was set to explore when I heard my mom scream.
Paul!
I ran out of the basement to see her hovering over my sister's unconscious body. My name is Paul. My family is not regular, as you might have deduced. My parents were extreme disciplinarians. I'm talking food, leisure time restrictions, and even sending their children to live in the basement as punishment. This was how I discovered the secret room. My sisters and I are introverts, a personality obviously influenced by the kind of upbringing we had. Investing solely in my studies kept me in my dad's good books most of the time. I did this because my punishments were always the worst. That didn't last long. Some of my classmates were jealous. They couldn't fathom how I always topped the class. Then the rumors began. I had been stealing test questions. My calm look was just a facade. On the day things fell apart, I was in a biology class when the school secretary called me to report to the principal's office. The principal had gotten wind of the fake news, and I was summoned by the school's disciplinary panel. I watched in despair as my classmates testified against me one after the other. It broke my heart, but I didn't have friends, so no one could vouch for me. My class teacher looked betrayed. I was the student she would always brag about, and now the pride was being replaced by shame. My dad's eyes screamed disappointment, disdain written all over his face.
How could you bring such shame to this family?
From the corner of my eyes, I could see my mom shake her head in disgust.
The apple is truly never far from the tree,
She said under her breath. I wondered what she was talking about.
You'll move into the basement until school asks you to resume.
One evening, my siblings and I got too engaged in a movie and we didn't realize that it was past our bedtime.
Why is the television still turned on?
My mom asked as she turned on the lights. I was about to get defensive when the living room clock struck 12. I didn't realize it was that late.
Turn it off and go to bed. It's late.
We were stunned and watched in fear as she strolled into the kitchen for her regular night rituals. The next morning, we thanked her for not reporting us to Dad, and she nodded. By evening, my dad called all 5 of us to the living room. Mom was sitting beside him. That was a moment of realization.
The 5 of you seem to get more reckless by the day,
Said Dad.
And Paul, you keep forgetting that when I'm gone, you will be the man of this house. If you don't keep the house rules now, how will you control the home when I'm no more?
I'm sorry, sir. Those were the only words I could form. I felt betrayed.
You can reflect on your deeds while you serve your punishment. The girls will have their leisure time ceased for a week. As for you, Paul, for spearheading this rebellion, no leisure time for 2 weeks, with a cereal-only diet.
My punishment was also the worst. Almost immediately, I started moving the basic stuff into the basement. By basic stuff, I meant my books, the only luxury I'd be given access to for the next few weeks. While taking out the last set, I spotted my father at the balcony staring into space. Bracing myself, I walked to him to ask him what the problem was that he had with me. The doubt started when my sister suggested that I might be adopted. Their proof was that I always received the worst punishment for anything we did together, so I had to be adopted.
I think Mom and Dad adopted you because they wanted a male child, and you remind them daily of how they can't have one.
Samantha, my eldest sister, announced one day as she strolled into my room for our weekly siblings meeting.
True. Have you noticed how Mom looks at him?
Leah replied with a smirk on her face. Leah was the last of the 4 girls, and 3 years older than me, but we acted like twins. Although I laughed off the conversation, it never left my head.
What is it?
My father's baritone pierced my thoughts.
Why are you staring at me and saying nothing?
Dad, I muttered, am I adopted? The look on my father's face was new. I'd never seen him surprised. My sisters and I had concluded that our parents had no feelings.
Where did that come from?
You always punish me more than the girls, and it's not fair. I had tears in my eyes now. He smiled.
Let's walk, while I tell you a story.
Not the answer I expected, but okay.
There was a filthy rich family many years ago, and they had issues conceiving. After so many years of trying, they had a daughter, and that was the only child born. Being absentee parents, money made up for all they couldn't be, allowing the child to mix with the wrong crowd and finally becoming reckless. At 17, she'd engaged in all forms of vices, drugs, alcohol, partying. It was during one of those parties that her life changed. Drunk as usual, she got into a fight with a stranger who, unfortunately, did not survive a blow to the head. She was arrested, and as usual, her parents' money came to the rescue. Every official on the case was bribed, and she was released. The incident got her sober, and she wondered how differently her life would have played out if her parents did not have the financial capacity to spare her prison. She swore never to allow her children to go down the same path. She went to rehab and became better.
By the time Dad ended his tale, we had gotten to the basement. Confused about what that had to do with my question, I nodded regardless. My mind was still wandering when Dad walked away. I started cleaning up the basement. It was to be my safe place for the next few weeks, so I had to make it worthwhile. The paint on the wall was horrible to look at, but a section looked far worse. I decided to set up my reading table against it. There was no way anyone would fall asleep staring at that wall. When the table hit the wall, it made a hollow sound. I couldn't help but tap on the patterns and realize they were movable. It seemed to be a puzzle. I pushed my table aside and got to work. I wondered what would happen when I finished the puzzle. If it was like any of the movies, then it had to be a secret room. A secret room. I would never have imagined. What else could my parents be hiding from me? I was set to explore when I heard my mom scream.
Paul!
I ran out of the basement to see her hovering over my sister's unconscious body. Oh yes, that's how we got here. We rushed my older sister Sheila to the hospital. The doctor said something about stress and needing proper care. This made me very angry. Sheila had been looking pale for weeks and my parents didn't even notice. Their discipline pattern was what got her here in the first place. They were too busy trying to make perfect people out of us. Now, more than ever, I was determined to know what sat behind that wall. Sheila was admitted for 3 weeks, and this gave me enough time to discover what was going on in the basement. On the third day, I finished the puzzle, and the walls opened. Yes, I was right, a secret room. It housed a lot of boxes that contained files. There was a lot to go through, but I was ready for it. The more files I went through, the angrier I became. How could my parents hide such things from us? It was unfair. We deserved to know. I didn't know how to approach my parents, so I crawled into my shell and stayed there. My parents seemed to have noticed my change in countenance. When they walked into my room the day after Sheila was discharged, I was surprised. Mom and Dad usually didn't care about our feelings. They only cared about their version of right.
Are you okay?
Mom asked. I responded with a cold stare. Not like you care, I said inaudibly.
We are your parents, Paul. You can always come to us.
Yes. We don't want you kids growing apart, regardless of whatever happens. We are still family.
As they walked out, I watched my mother carefully, and tears filled my eyes. My family, however broken we were, had rituals, one of which was having breakfast together on Saturday. Everyone had varying schedules during the week, and hence had breakfast at different times. This Saturday, I wasn't looking forward to it, but it came anyway, and I helped Mom set the table. I kept pushing my food around the plate, and my taste buds seemed to be damaged.
Sheila, no phone at the table.
My father's shout brought my wandering mind back. My sister was shaking with fear while Dad glared at her. He was about to make a move for her phone when I screamed, "Stop it!" Everyone stared in shock. "Stop it, Dad," I went on. "We are not you. Stop projecting your insecurities on us. We don't deserve to be treated this way. It's wrong. Punishing us like this changes nothing."
You're right, son. I'm sorry. I just want you kids to turn out better. My bad leg is a good enough reminder of my reckless life.
My dad burst into tears, stood up, and limped away. Everyone stared in confusion. There was indeed a rich family long ago with a spoiled child, but it wasn't a girl, it was a son. That son was my dad. He tried to use us to make up for his past mistakes, hence the disciplinary actions. I spent all those days in the secret room I discovered, learning about my family's past. I got the worst punishment because, like Dad, I was the only son. He didn't want me to go down the same path that nearly destroyed him. The days that followed were cold. The atmosphere in the house was so tense, it got everyone speaking and walking with extreme caution. I spent most of my days inside my room, even though my parents had become lenient with us since the Saturday breakfast incident.
We have an appointment with the therapist by 4 p.m. this evening.
My mom casually announced one morning.
My family won't be broken. Not on my watch.
Yes, this would be good for us. There's a lot to fix.
Dad nodded in agreement. It was weird as we all sat together on the couch at the therapist's office. This was the closest we had ever been.
Who wants to speak first?
The therapist asked. The silence that followed was awkward.
Our parents hate us.
Leah said.
What makes you say that?
Their cruelty sent my sister to the hospital. She was admitted for 3 weeks, and they make my brother sleep in the basement all the time. It feels like we're living in the military barracks.
Sheila chipped in.
With the training we get at home, we could qualify for the military.
One after the other, we all aired our grievances, but nothing could have prepared us for what my mom was about to say.
I lost my only brother about 20 years ago. He got into a fight one night at a club, but my family could never get justice for my brother. The murderer's parents were rich, so they paid off the case. I pledged my life to get justice for my brother and proceeded to marry his killer. My plan was to kill him slowly and inherit his family's money as compensation for my brother's death.
This had to be a coincidence, right? My mom couldn't be talking about this marriage, right?
Over the years, I watched this man punish himself for his past. It broke my heart so much, and I couldn't help but fall in love with him.
This time, she was looking at my dad, who seemed like he'd just seen a ghost. He looked like he was about to faint. Then, he went on his knees to apologize to my mom, but she wouldn't let him. Mom pulled him into a hug, which my siblings and I joined in. We spent what was left of the session hugging and crying. Other sessions followed, and we got better as individuals and as a family. Sometimes I wonder how our lives would have still been had I never discovered that secret room. Secret room.
When my mom and I were queuing to buy hot dogs, we saw that the wallet of the man in front of us was sticking out. Immediately, my mom took it and was ready to flee. Are you crazy? Why did you do that? Shut up, brat. You know nothing about life. She bluntly pushed me to the ground and quickly ran away. Hi, I'm Hannah. My mom became pregnant with me when she was only 17. Her boyfriend abandoned her, and her parents angrily threw their only daughter out of the house. So my mom raised me alone. She always had to find ways to earn money to help us survive. And perhaps that's why she developed the habit of stealing. I first realized it when I was 7. That day we went shopping at a supermarket near our house when I was mesmerized by the candy store. Suddenly, Mom opened my backpack and stuffed canned meat inside. What are you doing, Mom? Be quiet if you want to have food tonight. But stealing is bad. We could get caught. Who cares? Even though I tried to stop her, she still stole the cans. My whole body was shaking with fear, sweat pouring out nonstop. I couldn't even look directly at other people. When we went through the supermarket door, we were suddenly stopped by a security guard. My heart skipped a beat at that moment. Young girl, you dropped your keychain. I frantically picked it up and quickly left the supermarket. Thank God he didn't know we were shoplifters. Not only that, sometimes my mom waited until the neighbors were away from home to pick up the delivery boxes in front of their door. Whenever she was caught, she lied that I had a serious illness and needed money urgently, so they would be sympathetic and forgive her. Once, Linda, the school's richest and most famous girl, invited me to her birthday party. Mom was very happy to take me there. Because I was so excited about the clown who was performing magic tricks at Linda's party, I forgot about Mom. I glanced around and saw her stagger over. She didn't say anything, but pulled my hand away from the party. But then a silver spoon suddenly fell from her pocket, making a loud noise that made everyone focus on us. Is that our silverware? Linda's mother exclaimed. I swear it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. When they checked her bag, they also discovered several other expensive items from Linda's mother. Because the value of those was too much, her family called the cops. After that day, I was isolated by my friends. No one wanted to play with me anymore. As for my mom, although Linda's family forgave her, because of her bad influence, she was no longer allowed to have custody of me. I had to move back in with my grandparents. Luckily, they accepted me warmly. However, they forbade me from seeing my mom again. A few years passed. I started a new life and gradually forgot about my mom's presence. When I was 16, to earn extra pocket money, I decided to work part-time at a coffee shop. Here, I got to know Liam. He asked me to be his girlfriend many times, but I refused. You know, Liam is the son of a rich family. Unlike me, he worked part-time just for experience. Because I always felt inferior to him about my family situation, I didn't dare go out with him. One day, our coffee shop suddenly had a new employee. The first moment I saw that person, I was startled. You won't believe it. It was my mom. Right after lunch break, she dragged me to the back of the cafe to talk. She said she regretted it and wanted to make it up to me, but I bought none of that. Stop it! You'll get back to your bad habit again. Just stay away from me. I coldly told her and turned to leave. After that day, she always tried to reach me while I constantly avoided her. When I confided in Liam, he advised me to make up with my mom. But honestly, what she did in the past made it impossible for me to forgive. That day when I was making coffee, suddenly there was a panicked customer screaming, "My God, my Chanel bag! Someone has stolen it!" Immediately, I thought of Mom. I rushed over and grabbed her hand. "Please give her bag back. Aren't you ashamed?" "What are you talking about?" "Mom, just stop pretending." When we were arguing, suddenly, Liam took a bag from the bathroom and gave it to the customer. Turns out she forgot it on the sink. I looked guiltily at my mom and apologized to her. Even though she said it was nothing, I still saw the sadness in her eyes. After that day, I talked to her more. I shared with her why I was always angry, and she also apologized for her behavior in the past. She promised she had changed and was trying to be better. After hearing that, I decided it was time to forgive my mom. Since then, our relationship has also improved. One day, Liam invited me to his house for a Christmas party with his family. You know, because of my inferiority complex, I rejected Liam's confession before, but honestly, I really liked him. When I asked for my mom's opinion, she was so supportive that I bravely accepted Liam's invitation. After thinking for a while, I decided to also bring my mom to the party so that my dearest people could get to know each other better. When Christmas Day finally arrived, we went to Liam's house. It was a rich and luxurious villa. Although I knew that Liam's family was well off, I didn't expect him to be so rich. Liam took me around his house and then introduced me to his parents. They looked amazing and treated me very well. When we were happily chatting, suddenly his housekeeper shouted loudly, causing everyone to panic. "Call the police! Our lady's necklace was stolen!" Liam's parents rushed back to their room to discover that Liam's mother's precious diamond necklace had been gone. Minutes later, the police showed up. They started checking the guests' bags, and even in my wildest dream, I didn't expect them to find that necklace in my handbag. No, I didn't do anything. Even though I tried to explain, no one believed me. When the police were about to take me away, Liam suddenly spoke up. "Wait, there's fluorescent powder on the jewelry box. If she's a thief, her hand will glow in the dark." Then everyone turned off the lights. Indeed, in the darkness, my handbag lit up with fluorescent powder. But my hands were not. And that surprised everyone even more. The only glowing hands at the party were my mom's. "Mom! Didn't you say you would stop stealing?" But Mom remained silent. Liam suddenly spoke up. "No, Hannah. Your mom has never changed." "What do you mean?" He sighed and told me everything. Turns out, that day, Liam found the customer's Chanel bag in my mom's closet. But because he was afraid that I would hate my mom and our relationship couldn't be salvaged, Liam decided to lie to cover for her. Then he met my mom and asked her to change. In front of Liam's kindness, Mom promised not to do it again. But in the end, she still got back to old habits. With the clear evidence, my mom could only bow her head in silence. "I'm sorry, dear," was what she said before being taken away by the police. Soon my mom had to go to jail for what she did. Maybe this punishment will wake her up. As for me, luckily Liam and his parents don't hate me. Knowing what I've been through, they're even kinder to me. Liam and I are now a couple. Even though I'm still mad at Mom, I hope one day we'll meet again and she'll become a better person.